Well, thank you, Mark. And good morning, all. A while back, a respected Swiss scientist raised a cry of deep alarm about the effects of information overload brought on by the technological revolution. Konrad Gessner, in a landmark book, described how people were overwhelmed with data and that this overabundance was both, and I'm quoting, confusing and harmful to the mind. That book, to tell the whole story, was written in 1565. And the revolution that Gessner found so alarming was being driven by the movable parts of the new printing press, which was invented close to here, in Minsk. I mentioned this incident, which was recently brought to my attention in an article by Von Bell on Slate, to make a simple point. While the pressures we in the media world feel are real, and they demand from us courage and innovation and leadership and imagination, we as a society have been here before. And the core challenge is still one described by Gessner almost 5 centuries ago. How, in a world cluttered with media choices, do any of us break through to establish and maintain the critical relationship of trust and value with our audience? We know from vast experience that there is no single answer. Each speaker on this panel works for an enterprise that is coping with this problem in its own way, with its own strategy, its own value proposition, and its own vision of where the market is heading, and that these ideas and views will frame our discussion. But let me suggest, in the spirit of media togetherness, that we begin by rallying around 3 interlocking core ideas. 1, quality news and information are more necessary than ever in these turbulent times. 2, with the internet, broadband communication, and an array of new devices all readily available, more people than ever have access to world-class journalism, and that this is a very good thing. And 3, democracy, whether here in Germany, in the United States, or anywhere else, depends to a large degree on the profession of journalism getting this right. The multi-billion-dollar question for all of us is how to make money from all this wonderful and life-affirming content. How do we create a business model that supports our most noble ambitions? The New York Times, as with most companies, is seeking new ways to leverage the underlying elements of its business. To do this successfully requires that we make a very conscious decision to engage in organizational-wide reinvention. We are reinventing our strategy, we are reimagining our journalism, and we are rethinking our relationship with our news and our business audiences. This work is enabling us to become a truly multi-platform news organization, one that utilizes all forms of distribution, from print to online to video to mobile to e-readers to whatever will be the next new thing. Yet at the end of the day, much of our focus must be on achieving greater reader engagement. And this brings us to nytimes.com. By a variety of metrics, it is one of the world's most popular news websites. Yet from a decade of experience, we recognize that we need to constantly rethink our underlying digital premise and reformulate what is already working reasonably well. As most of you know, early next year, the New York Times will introduce a pay model. In our case, a metered approach to our website. Simply put, this means that users will have to pay for the site after viewing a given number of free pages. To do this successfully requires that we think even more deeply about what our readers want. Fundamentally, we must reconsider the very nature of reader engagement. This is because the more value we deliver to them, the more likely they will be to pay. In a very direct sense, greater engagement contributes to our emerging business model. Thus, we need to think more deeply about engagement, whether on or off the web, and consider how it centers on the emotional connection that our users have with us. So this takes us to a pretty basic point. The media arts, including journalism, are fundamentally about storytelling. But what is storytelling in an interactive network? What's different about it online? The emotional side of this transcends technology. It is not about the printing press or the server or the cave drawing, for that matter. It's about creating an essential human connection. News sites have, so far, achieved limited success because, in part, the rules of engagement are so different online. Why, for example, do people spend so much more time with the print edition of the Times than they do, on average, with the website? The answer, in part, has to do with the fundamental ways that we relate to our tools, in this case, the tools we use to tell stories and engage human emotions. One of the Times' great accomplishments over the past 3 years has been to build an intersection between technology and journalism. While we are still examining the sociology of that intersection, we've made great strides in digital storytelling, in data visualization, in video and multimedia, all of which we believe is helping to build a tighter emotional bond, and all of which leads to greater engagement. As part of this effort, we are placing an even greater emphasis on establishing the identity of our users, which we believe is a fundamental building block to engagement. Actually, this is something we've been working on for a long time at nytimes.com. We were among the first websites to succeed at scale with the registration scheme. We've always thought that among our most leverageable assets is our audience. Yes, we leverage them in advertising sales, and always have. But here I'm referring to our audience as knowledgeable participants in the life of our website. This creates the essential emotional bond that will lead to real engagement in an interactive setting. At the heart of this kind of knowledge sharing is identity. And I just don't mean real names, although that helps. I mean a track record based on a lot of input. Basically, this is about the publishing community building this, as I said, deeper emotional relationship in a day-to-day work, reinforcing, expanding our social connections. We need to do a better job as we sit on our digital stoops, connecting with our friends and colleagues, creating things that are extraordinary. No amount of modeling, analysis, or research can ever replace that. Some things have to be believed to be seen, as Steve Jobs has said. Creating a social connection is not a sideline to our business model. It is increasingly at the center. Our collective mindset must shift in this direction if we are to succeed in the coming years. The good news is, as I said, we're finally pushing harder in this direction at the Times. We're deepening our integrations on Facebook and Twitter. We're taking seriously the policy implications of having outside contributors curate and create for Times topics. We're partnering with Google to build the Living Stories prototype, a whole new way to organize content on the web. And we're beginning to experiment with badging by including user photos and other identity-based design cues. So let me close by saying that we're about to take an incredibly exciting new turn at the New York Times. Literally and figuratively, this turn is not free. We have an opportunity to redefine the essential relationship we have with our users in charge and change the contract we have with them from one that is loose, free, and casual to one of real emotional commitment. And it's an opportunity we eagerly embrace. Thank you.